Hey guys, let's introduce you to the flat loop band. Now, there are several different types of resistance bands we can use for fitness, for rehab, and for training. And the flat loop band has a couple of key benefits we want to pay attention to. The first one is, by having more surface area, it stays in place easier than smaller bands. So especially when you're doing lower body exercises and you're trying to provide resistance to big muscle groups, the larger band will help stay in place and be more reliable for you as you go through either your rehab or your training. The next thing we want to pay attention to is just the benefit of resistance itself. A lot of times we tend to go too far with our fitness. You want to start an activity or start an exercise and you grab really heavy weights. There's an onboarding or a learning process that can be done with resistance that helps us make sure we're doing exercises correctly and that we're patterning our body to understand how it should feel when we do proper exercise. The word patterning is interesting, and as coaches, we love to use it. So much of fitness is teaching the muscles, and we do that through repetition and consistency. So your flat loop band will allow you to have a high rep exercise set that can be consistent in patterning the muscle to do the right thing. So, have you heard me talk about it enough? Let's get into some exercises. The following exercises are going to help you use this specific version of rubber resistance or resistance training to become a smarter, better, more able athlete, no matter what your level of athleticism. Let's get into the exercises. All right, so your exercises. We've got 5 exercises. A couple of them work on independent sides, and so we'll read this as 7. A good way to start these 7 exercises is to be active for time. The upside to a timed interval is if you're really successful at these moves, you'll get a lot of reps. If you're not so successful, you have this short time window to work on getting better and better and better. So for us, 40 seconds. We're gonna be active for 40, resting for 20. The first exercise, we're gonna go ahead and take that band and we're gonna go ahead and use the benefit of it being nice and big to go right around those knees. We're gonna drop onto our back here and slide our heels in so that we're just touching the tips of our fingers. And we're focusing on getting glute activation in a hip raise. So we're gonna drive through those heels and lift those hips up off the ground. And as I reset back down, I'm gonna get close to, but not touching that ground. Lifting up and dropping down. And what we're focusing on is getting those glutes. So why do I have the rubber band around my knees? When we raise up and get nice glute activation, we're gonna ask a little lateral activation. So just a little push into the outside of that band and force the outside of our leg to engage and feel that engagement as those glutes are turned on. We use that word patterning in your introduction. The patterning talks to the idea of the outside of the leg engaging with the glute so that the whole system becomes smart and active and stronger to help you have a better hip, knee, joints that tend to have the pain from chronic sitting or lack of movement can get fixed as I raise up and squeeze out, drop down, raise up, squeeze out, drop down. Those are your hip raises with lateral activation. 40 seconds of those. It's gonna help you build some strength through that lower body. The next move is gonna be dropping into a clamshell. So with the clamshell, we're gonna keep that band just above the knees, and we're gonna lift out of the hip socket to engage, again, the outside of that leg and in through the glute. So we're asking our hip socket to open and close back down. Open, feel the tension, and feel the movement coming from the hip only. Not pushing away from my knees, not pushing into my feet, but feeling it from that hip, engage and release down. And this is one of those moves where you can hold and drop out of it to help you increase that consistency and the tension and the activation in the muscle. Hold and release. Again, here for about 40 seconds and then switch to the opposite side. The advancement to this move is then the reverse clamshell. So I'm gonna lift up till I feel tension on that band. I'm gonna keep this space between my knees steady and consistent, and then I lift the lower leg. And from here, we work on internal rotation in the hip. This is really good for those that maybe struggle with tightness in the hips, if they have unnatural position of the pelvis, or if you just have pain in through that lower back and hip region. So the reverse clamshell, just lifting to the outside of that foot, maintaining the distance, and the tension on the flat band loop helps you ensure that you keep that distance steady as you roll through that hip maneuver. Those 3 exercises, the raises, the clamshells, and the reverse clamshells, are great ways for you to feel nice and strong with the security of the hip socket and the glute activation. Now, let's test it. and come up into a squat position. Let's hold that squat. Again, we've got that band. If you noticed, I've been moving up and down from the ground and the band doesn't move anywhere. A great benefit to the thickness of the flat band loop. I'm gonna step out and hold and step back in. I'm gonna try to feel what I felt in that clamshell. Step, hold, and step back in. These squat step out holds help us identify, maybe I have a weaker side, left or right. Maybe I have a bit of fatigue on one side more than the other, but this independent movement helps me understand which side could use a little bit more help than the other. Step out, hold, and release back in. Those are the squat step outs. Lots of action through here. You're gonna feel that quite a bit as you progress through this set of exercises, and then using these exercises independently as you need for either warm up, cool down, or to fill in the gaps of your other workouts. All right, let's get to your last exercise. In this one, we level up a little bit. You're gonna take that band off, and one of the other benefits to this flat loop band not addressed earlier is that you can get a bigger range of motion than you can with a mini band. A mini loop band is gonna have quite a bit of tension, and so you'll find some limitation to it. With the big band, we can stretch it a little further, and so let's take advantage of it. On this final exercise, we're gonna do a decel squat, which means we're gonna move slowly into our squat pattern, and as we do that, we're gonna get a bit of retraction in that upper body. What that forces is our full body to communicate. That means belly's gonna get tight. So I'm gonna drop into that squat, and I'm gonna pull this band open, slow, and then back up, release. So remember, nice and slow in that squat, drop into it slow as you pull that band apart and release. You're paying attention to not rounding your back. You're paying attention to keeping a good spine angle, sitting back into your heels, nice and deep, slow, and release back up. And you can hear my voice, what it takes to do this exercise. It takes a tight belly, nice and tight, sit, and release out of it. That's a series of exercises with the flat band loop that'll help you take this very specific piece of equipment, incorporate it into your fitness, whether it's for training, for rehabilitation, or for preparing you for more adventurous or explosive workouts. Flat band loop.